political analyst Mohammad Marandi. He is in Vienna. And Mohammad, I understand that you are part of that negotiating team, the Iranian negotiating team. The dropping of sanctions is a red line for Tehran. It's something we've been talking about for several days now. It's something analysts say Iran is not going to budge on. So why is this such a red line for Tehran?
Because the JCPOA has already been agreed upon, and the Europeans and the Americans know their obligations. What happened was that after the deal was signed, the United States under Obama, A, did not implement the deal in full. And then B, under Trump, the United States left the deal altogether and forced their European allies to violate the deal completely. So the side that is at fault is the Europeans and the Americans. And the Iranians, for 4 years under Trump, they did not appease Trump. So now the Iranians are saying, we're not going to appease Biden. If we didn't appease Trump, we're definitely not going to appease Biden. The only way forward is for the United States and the Europeans to recognize that the only possibility is for them to return to the original deal and to implement that. But what they want to do is they want Iran to go back to 2015, but they want to keep sanctions they've imposed after 2015, and they want Iran to accept new commitments. That's not the JCPOA, and that's not going to be acceptable for Iran.
So if you've got both sides, Iran and the US, kind of drawing their red line, surely we've got to find a way to meet in the middle, because these economic sanctions in Iran on top of a COVID-19 pandemic have surely hit the country hard.
Well, just because the United States and its European allies are targeting women and children, and just because they are killing cancer patients and trying to make people suffer, doesn't mean that the Iranians should submit to this sort of behavior. There is no middle ground here. There is the JCPOA. Until now, the Europeans and the Americans have been talking about how terrible Trump is and that he left the JCPOA. But now the Europeans and the Americans are behaving just like Trump. They want to put pressure on ordinary Iranians, as Trump did, to get new concessions from Iran. But the Iranians know that if they go down that road, that's a very slippery slope. Because once you appease the Americans and the Europeans, you're sending a signal to them that 6 months from now, they can impose new sanctions again, and then demand new concessions, and then a year from now, do that again and again. So the Iranians are saying, look, we already had a deal, the JCPOA. Many in Iran are not necessarily happy with the JCPOA. They believe that Iran gave too much. But since Iran signed up to the deal, the Iranians are willing to accept it. Now, the Americans and the Europeans say, well, the Iranians have gained a lot of knowledge since. Well, that's their own fault. They left the deal. They caused hundreds of billions of dollars of damage to the Iranian economy. In fact, they should compensate for the damage that they've done. But instead of compensating, instead of abiding by their commitments, and instead of showing to Iran how they will, and verifying how they will implement the deal, instead of promising verification, compensation, instead they're saying to the Iranians, no, we want to keep some of the sanctions that we've added after the deal, but you have to go back to 2015. It's a very Eurocentric and 19th century concept, to be blunt.
Professor Mohammad Marandi, always good to get your take on this story. Thank you so much for your time.